getting sober or getting into the shape you are in now? There's no right or wrong answer. Which one would you say got you kind of the biggest boost in terms of confidence?
Honestly, I would say at first, and maybe still now, I'd say getting sober because I mean my first thought was that I probably should say fitness because but I mean the reality is I remember feeling not in control or powerful because those are because it had to be it was God doing it. I mean I had to make the choice. That's the interesting thing about the conversation is that you know it's not by works, but we actually have to do stuff. So it's not we can't just although I've been in camps where you just sit back and pray and let God do his thing and I haven't seen it work out very well, but there might be a season for that, I suppose, but I don't know. No, I would say definitely that because alcohol had such control over me that although I still kind of had to figure out, it's been a process to kind of find who I was without drinking, especially at this stage of my life. Like I knew who I was before I drank, and I wasn't really too happy with that, I guess, and just maybe in some areas that I just couldn't control, and so it was just frustrating. But there was a lot of things that I was pretty proud of and confident in. But yeah, stopping drinking, sobriety definitely has given me the most because I don't have to be controlled by it anymore. It doesn't it consumed every minute of my thoughts, literally, especially the last several years. It wasn't that bad the whole time, but it was that bad for the last 3 or 4 years. And and that's a lot of weight. Because you're trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to drink in this situation? How am I going to get alcohol to the zoo? How am I going to get it to I mean, you name it. Like, it was. I found a way to get it everywhere, and now I don't have to do that. I don't have to think about this thing that was controlling me. So that's 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 a big confidence boost. Obviously, getting in shape and um, I'd already gone through when I first started working out. Like over that first year, I'd experienced the confidence that comes from changing how your body looks. Because I went from 6'1", 149 pounds to 6'1", 185, 190 pounds in a relatively short amount of time. And I was talking about this with someone yesterday that talking about the confidence that comes from getting physically fit, and it's a real thing, and especially in a government environment because they're really big on rank and authority, and I worked around a lot of high ranking officers and stuff, and then I was also working around like Marine Corps special ops guys and I worked around NASA, so there was different environments where I was working around some pretty amazing people according to those titles. And yeah, I was being noticed, and it was weird to me. At first, it was like, it was kind of like the name dropping thing. I learned that game pretty quick, and I didn't overuse it, but I could use it to my advantage if I needed something, done or needed you know, something to happen. But it would happen on its own just by my the difference in my presence. And so, yeah, there is an element of confidence building that comes from that. I mean, people talk about being unhealthy or being unfit, whether it's overweight or whatever, and they're just fine with where they're at. Now we have a whole society telling us that it's okay to be who you are, and there's a degree of that being true, to the point of like you don't just live in depression and sulk but do something about it. Don't just be fine with something that's really not you. But in America, it's like I mean, just go to any store, right? It's like celebrated. Uh, you know, there's a store in particular in town that they really celebrate this, large women, and part of their celebration is, there's a picture of a larger woman and her stuff or whatever, but they have a picture of her shirt kind of lifted up, and there's a scar on her stomach. And I'm like, a scar is very different than this other stuff. Like it's not the same category. Like we don't. She has a choice with this other thing, and the society and world is telling her that it's okay to not do anything about. And she's seemingly looks like she's in her late 20s, early 30s. Like this is going to progressively get worse. So what help are you going to be to anybody in society? Like your scars are relevant. That's a story you can use, you know, to help someone get through if they have a problem with that. That's a small thing, but this weight issue that you have control over, I don't care what your genetics are, I don't care any of that. Maybe it's a longer process or a shorter process for somebody, but you do have say so in this. You do have say so in these things, and it does bring an element of confidence that you don't have to finagle. You know, you don't have to trick yourself into thinking that, you know, I mean, yeah, we're all great just by being here. We all have a greatness. You know, God created all of us, but I think we have a responsibility to take care of it.
What the temple, right? We kind of alluded a little bit to that earlier. The temple, which is just over the top, magically forgotten about by the church, and by the church I mean ecclesia. And this is worldwide, by the way, right? Like having an international marriage, and being from Nashville, but also going to Ole Miss. So like I'm very familiar with the Southeast, right, and like the SEC, like football, right, like homegrown American horse, and also international with the Japanese wife. We both lived in Europe, and I'm like I've seen this all over, and it's just this seems to be not an isolated incident, right? In many regards, and we do have control, of it. Eat less, move more. It's probably a good place to start. Nobody starts running marathons immediately, right? But everyone can take a few extra. If you got to walk around your house, walk around your apartment, then you jog around your apartment, then you jog around your house, right? Like whatever. Like there's it's steps, right? And it's like steps of sobriety that it takes a day at a time, right? I couldn't agree more with you in that regard, and I think it's just not. It was temporarily forgotten. Let's put it that way. And I just don't think that it's going to last forever. And I can't, when you're describing that situation, what pops into my head is Chris Pratt's words. When he's like, hey, look, I know everyone tells you that you're perfect. I hate to break it to you. You're not. But that's the beauty of grace. Like, that's the point of this thing, is the growth, is the improvement, right? So that's for whatever reason, that's the quote that just popped into my head there as you're doing it. So tell me about Fit Over 40.
Yeah. So I started the Fit Over 40 Dad page in January, I think, of this year. Um, I had a personal page, and I didn't feel like that was. I just feel like I needed something separate, something very specific to what I was doing now, and that was just being intentional about getting my body back in shape, being intentional about, although I didn't talk about it for several months, being intentional about, not drinking, and being intentional about like new habits I was doing. I was reading Atomic Habits at the time, which was very, very big part of the transformation. Uh, Fit Over 40 Dad, I started that. It was kind of an accountability place for me, just something that, I mean, accountability is interesting. And whenever we commit to something, there's nothing about that thing in and of itself that is making us do anything, whether it's a program, a book, another person. Like we have to choose to stay committed to it, right? No one can make us do that. But I was using this page. It became this thing that I felt responsible to do, even though I started from zero, started from complete scratch, and I didn't quite know exactly what I wanted to do with it, other than just kind of document what I was doing. It's kind of like my diary, so to speak, I guess, scrapbook, whatever. And I remember having a conversation maybe a month or so into it with one of my sons who was. I've got one son that's pretty heavy into social media in the TikTok world of all things. Not anymore, but he was, and and pretty big Instagram following. Although there wasn't really a lot of direction with it, it was just entertainment type stuff. And so we had some preconceived ideas of the rules of Instagram, and you camp out on this algorithm stuff, and you camp out on all this, right. And we also had a couple business pages that well, at the time, just one business page. And so I had some experience with running that quite a bit. So I was using this Fit Over 40 Dad for a couple reasons. I was using it to keep me accountable, just committing to it and just doing something that required me to actually do at least 7 seconds of a move every day, which I obviously did more. Um, but I was using that as a place also to practice things I was learning in the social media world, just as far as how the processes work. And so I started that page. I also started an ICEDAD 11 page for my cold therapy. We, over the course of a couple months, started a couple other pages for our business. So I had 4 or 5 pages that I was running at one time and posting at least 2 reels a day, and it just put me, fully engulfed in this thing. And one of my sons was like, with the Fit Over 40 Dad, it looks like you're trying to do your own style, and you need to just do what's popular. And I'm like, but I can't. Like, this, if it's not popular, then if my style isn't popular, then so be it. Like, it's not for it. There was no intention of it ever doing anything. I had to be authentic. I had to be me. And I don't consume a lot of social media stuff. There was some fitness things over the past that I'd known a few other people, and I'd watched some things that would kind of maybe spark a desire to try some crazy thing or whatever. I always kind of had that, but I never really consumed social media. So my mind wasn't like, cluttered up with all these different ways to do it. So anyway, we hired a business coach for an idea that we had. We put together a training course online for our one of our businesses, and I needed to really hone the skill to get exposure. And so I just started doing other things, consistency, volume. Um, that page started doing well. The other page for our business, Fit Over 40, was just kind of sitting at 50 followers, and this was probably 3 or 4 months into it. And I was like, I think it's kind of run its course. And so I kind of just let it go for a couple weeks. And a buddy of mine that I grew up with uh, sent me this hat, sent me this Fit Over 40 hat that he made with this little leather patch on this black camo hat. He sent me 2 of them. And I opened up the box. I had no idea he was sending it. I opened up the box and I was like, wow. So I reached out and said thanks. And he gave me his testimony of like how uh, it was affecting him. And I was like, it was my first real experience of because I wasn't getting any interaction. I mean, you might get 20 views on a reel and 0 comments and 3 likes. And so I didn't really see the point of doing the social media anymore, but it was affecting him. He came across it because we were friends on my other page, and so he followed it, and it really reignited, or I don't know that it reignited, but it just gave me a real vision of what this could be. Of even as small as it was, even if it was just impacting one person, then great. And so I just rolled with it. And at the time, there was this. Uh, I was aware of some trending things for my kids, and so one of the trending things was these introductory type posts, like "This is me, who I am," and I tried to do it the traditional style where you're just standing in front of a wall, and it looks so stupid. I had the video for a long time, but I didn't post it. I'm like, this is dumb. So scrapped that idea, and then I went running. Which after my marathon, I had an injury that I'm still kind of dealing with, and so I was trying to see if I could run again, and we went running for like maybe a mile, just me and one of my boys. And he's always, this is the son that's in social media, so he took a video of me, and he sent it to me afterwards, and I was like, oh, this might be a good, it's just me running, nothing crazy. We're actually on our driveway, and uh, and so I just used that as a place to put this introduction thing, and then that's the post that just went berserk. It's got 2.5 million views. I've gotten 20,000 followers from that one post, and it just kind of blew up. And then I started getting interaction because when people come to your profile and follow you, then they start going through your content, and if they like it, they consume it, and if they don't, they just move on, and they may unfollow you later. But something about what I was doing was resonating with a lot of men and women, and so I started seeing the value in the consistency, and of course, posting daily. I post 4 or 5 reels every day now on this page on the Fit Over 40 Dad, and then I post one or two on some other pages. But it really is impacting somebody, and a lot of men reach out. I don't have a lot of clients, so to say. I never thought I would do any kind of coaching per se. I just like I, I don't like the mental part of what has to happen, because that's something that only you can do individually. Like, I can say things and compliment you or check you on this or that, but you really have to make that decision. But I like helping and giving. That was part of one of our businesses never really did very well, because we just like to give it. So we're learned we know better now. Like, there's value to what we have, and so there's a value exchange. I get it, but I'm pretty quick to just give things. And so the things that I had learned as a dad, this was an outlet to give that. And uh, the lessons that I've learned in my faith, in my marriage, in living in 20 different states, uh, traveling to different countries, my job, the structure of my job, the structure of my walk, just in general. There's value to it that helps people in those places that they're at of struggle. So.
What's going on, guys? If you like that clip right there, you will love the full interview. You can check that out right there. I'll see you on the next video. Oh, and subscribe, because we got a lot of big things coming up in the near future.